Hey YouTube, I'm Jacob Beach,
And I'm Mariah Beach.
and we're here today with the Preppers Bunker Outdoors to talk about Season 2, Episode 2 of Alone. Check it out.
Alright guys, welcome back. In this episode we got to meet 4 new contestants. David, Justin, Randy, and Mike.
But we didn't get to see Jose or Nicole yet. I'm very excited to see how they're doing.
Yep, definitely.
So the first person that we're going to talk about today is David.
With David we got to see a little bit of his background. Christian guy, he said that he was a pastor in Brazil, missionary, has 3 kids. And so we got to see a little bit of his background, and we also got to see his attempt to do a trout line. Put some crabs on there as bait, but unfortunately his bait was eaten and he wasn't able to catch anything. So hopefully he'll be able to get some food pretty soon.
Yeah, Dave was not only a pastor, he was also a survival instructor in Brazil. They didn't really mention that much, but Brazil, where he was a survival instructor, was a pretty harsh environment. Dave really knows his stuff, but obviously Brazil's a much different place, and I'm excited to see how he can adapt his skills from Brazil over here to the Pacific Northwest.
Definitely. It's a big difference.
Oh, no doubt. Alright guys, so next we'll talk about Justin. Now obviously Justin has a military background. He talked about being a sniper instructor and some other stuff. And upon getting out, he has a new program called Hike to Survive, where he helps veterans that are out of the military to adapt to the civilian life by kind of helping them relieve stress by going out on hikes.
Yeah.
It's really cool, and I'm able to kind of understand that pretty well, being prior military and dealing with that myself. And obviously, that environment brought us both to the same place, which is outdoors. Now, Justin's doing something pretty similar probably to what I'd be doing, and that is he's mostly scouting, walking around, and checking stuff out.
Trying to get familiar with his surroundings, the resources that he has nearby. So definitely important.
Absolutely, and the other thing that people don't think about is even though we don't see him doing a lot on these little hikes, you have to stay moving. I think he realizes that you have to keep doing stuff to keep your mind in the right place.
Yeah, and he actually did mention that he was trying to stay active and stay motivated, that's great. I mean, you really, just even being out scouting is better than sitting in your shelter.
And sulking.
Yes,
right.
Definitely. Kind of keeps his mind off of the fact that he is where he is.
Right. Now, he had a duck around that he was kind of planning on eating because it had kind of stayed around, something that I think he thought he could get his hands on in the future, and then he found the duck dead. What do you think about that?
Well, obviously that's a huge bummer. I definitely think he made the right decision by not eating it, because it's a risk that I wouldn't take. I would have done the same thing and gotten rid of it. Being that there was no sign of it being attacked, it could have been a sickness, and I just wouldn't feel comfortable eating it.
Yeah, I understand that. Now, it must really be difficult to be so hungry to see meat and to waste it. And he talked about that. That's just got to be, when you're that hungry, you know, most people haven't ever been that hungry in their whole life.
Right.
But food's on your mind a lot, and so to see potential food in front of you, have to make a decision like that. A lot of people make the wrong decision, and I believe on a different show, Naked and Afraid, there was one point where a woman ate a old decayed bird's head and ended up in the hospital with a lot of issues. Obviously, when you get to that, you can't judge her for making that decision if you haven't been in that situation. Clearly, that was not the right decision, though, so it's good that Justin was able to keep his head level and,
Yeah,
and do the right thing there.
Definitely.
So, yep. Next, we'll talk about Mike.
So in this episode, we did get to meet Mike. We got to see some of his background here, his background story, meet his wife. So I always like to get that behind story of each contestant. We also got to see Mike's seaweed breakfast, which didn't look like the most appetizing thing, but we did get to learn quite a bit about the different types and what to eat and and how to eat it. So that was interesting. Also on his beach, there was some giant bear
Scat. Yeah.
piles. One of them looked to be the length of my arm.
Six piles.
Yeah, it was. He didn't seem to be very worried about it at all, though. Very relaxed about it. And then he also set up his gill net. And was extremely blessed the first time he set it up, and I really hope that continues to work for him. He actually caught 3 rather large fish.
Yep.
So that's really awesome. What did you think about his refrigeration method?
I liked that he tried to preserve the meat for a little while in the ground. Obviously, where they're at doesn't look to be extremely hot right now, but in the ground the temperature is always going to be a little bit cooler.
Right.
So when you are living by yourself in a situation like that, if you get more food that you can eat than you can eat at that moment, usually it has to go towards either being destroyed, preserved, or used as bait. And that was an interesting method of preservation. I hope that it works for him. And it was a pretty clever idea.
Yeah, I really liked that too.
I like that he's putting food away. That's nice, even if it was only for a couple days.
Yep.
So Mike grew up, he mentioned, as an orphan. He talked a little bit about some heart-wrenching stuff, Christmas in the orphanage and some other stuff like that. And, Mike, if there's one thing that you notice about him is he's always thanking Jesus.
Yes.
And knowing Mike, he really means that. He's a great guy, and it's really nice to see his testimony and his state of mind while he's out there. And the other thing is, he had mentioned on Facebook that he saw a lot of those bears, and he felt that he would just kind of leave them alone out of respect for them and not even videotape them or anything. And that they completely left him alone. And it really looks kind of like a Daniel in the Lion's Den kind of situation, because they didn't give him problems, which is very cool.
Definitely. And you could also see how much he loves his wife, which I always like to see stuff like that. Yeah. And I just thought that was so sweet. It seems like they really have a wonderful relationship, and that's definitely something that I can respect and appreciate.
So one of my worries with Mike is we're very early in the season. I hope he doesn't lose that gill net, because that would be devastating.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
So I'm very excited to see how Mike does, and I think that he will be a top contender here.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, guys, so the next person that we are going to talk about is Randy. What did you think about Randy?
Randy, in his mannerisms, kind of reminded me a little bit of Lucas.
Yeah, I can
year.
definitely see that connection there.
So Randy's a survival instructor. He seems to want to be more attached and more comfortable to land than sea, which he mentioned. Made a Paiute deadfall, seemed to understand the concept very well. I thought his placement was a little bit odd on top of the other log, but I guess we'll just have to see how that works out.
Yeah.
But I made some hemlock tea. That's really cool. I think that his reluctance to go rely on the ocean could end up being a difficulty for him. What do you think?
Well, I would have set up my gill net probably on day 1 or 2. Because you are surrounded by so much water and so many different resources of all kinds of different fish, and I would have had that set up sooner rather than later, and I probably would have done the gill net before I would have tried any other deadfall traps or anything like that. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to get his net going and get some food. They said he's only consumed about 2,000 calories in 3 days. And you have to remember that they are exerting so much energy while they're out here that they really need those calories.
Definitely.
Out here rather than, at home. They're more important. So I'm really hoping that he'll be able to get some food in his system.
In this kind of a situation, even if you're doing nothing, you're still exerting more calories than normal, just because of your mindset, of temperature, of everything.
Just being out of your normal element.
Right. So, hopefully that works. Now, obviously, the big deal here is that he lost his ferro rod.
Yeah.
It looks as if it might have burnt up in his fire. Now, one thing that I talked about last season with Joe was this here, having bright orange colors out there with you. And I don't know if they would be allowed to use a lanyard or not, but if they weren't allowed to use a lanyard, I would definitely use a lot of orange paint. Axe handles, knife handles, ferro rods, saws, all that stuff. It's kind of the popular thing for bush tools to be olive drab green, and that's cool for me because that's my favorite color, but it's really not what you want in a bush environment. And so I would definitely have brought a lot more orange stuff. Now, what's cool about Randy is he didn't quit. I'm glad to see that he's still trying. He's doing from the previews, it looks like he's doing his primitive fire stuff. His head's in the right place. I hope that he makes it work. And the other thing is, I'm always looking at tools. If you guys know me, I'm all about tools, knives, whatever the case may be. Last year's winner, Alan Kay, used a Condor kukri. As you may also know, I'm a huge kukri fan, so that was cool. And Randy used the primitive bush tool from Condor. And so, man, when he did use that ferro rod, the amount of sparks that he got from it, they just continued to burn. I've never even seen that. That was awesome. I should find out what kind of ferro rod he was using. But, all in all, I think Randy knows a lot. And I'm hoping that once he gets over the shock of being there, that we're going to be able to start seeing a lot.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched our Ozark Adventure video, you should. But we also kind of talk about marking your backpacks and kind of marking your way. So check that video out if you haven't. And I'm also very impressed that Randy did not just give up. He wasn't like, oh my goodness, I lost my ferro rod, I'm done. So I was really impressed with that, and I really hope that either he finds his ferro rod or that he's able to continue to make his fires, because I really think that he could be cut out to definitely do well.
Yeah, absolutely. So today's episode is going to be titled Mary Kate's episode, even though she did not tap. It's one of those rare early episodes where nobody taps, which I think really shows a lot about the contestants.
Yeah.
That's a great thing, and that's really cool. Mary Kate's had a little bit of a hard time, but how do you feel about what she had going on in this episode?
Okay, so as I talked about in our last episode, I would want to have my shelter set up to where I could have my fire by my shelter. But she decided to build a separate fire shelter, which when it comes to cooking food and stuff, that is really good. But like I said, I think it's important to have a place where you can keep dry to have your fire. So that was definitely good on that part, and for the most part, it looked good. So I think she has a good setup there. She also added a little bit of curb appeal, to her shelter.
She's already thinking about accessorizing.
But no, I think the front door thing is kind of cool. And I totally get what she means by just feeling more comfortable, because I can definitely relate to that. Having something underneath me, just being surrounded where I'm not totally exposed to, animals and stuff like that. So I think that the front door idea was creative, and I can totally agree.
Kentucky ticks.
Yeah.
I'll probably have multiple on me tonight.
So that's. What did you think about her? What happened with her hand?
All right, so that was a really big thing to happen. Like with the orange that I've been talking about, I think the other thing that people really need to be conscious of out here is definitely safety.
Yeah.
And that's pretty rare to hear from me. If you guys know me at all, I'm not very safety conscious. Now, an axe, there's nothing that beats an axe for splitting wood or kindling that's small if you're swinging the axe. But when you are using the method that she was using, which you might have to use, an axe is actually quite unwieldy and can be dangerous, which she showed. And so what I like to tell people to do, especially for kindling, what I ended up doing in my own home when we were heating our house with wood this winter, is actually batoning, which is simply you take your knife, you're able to hold what you're splitting, no matter the size, with the knife, and then you grab a baton. It's out of my reach right now, so I'll just demonstrate with my ferro rod. But you're actually going to hit the knife and split down through your wood. This is a really popular thing in the bushcraft community, but what this allows you to do is have a lot more control of what you're splitting while you're splitting it, and at no time do you necessarily need to put yourself in danger
kind of protect your
when
hands.
you're out there. So now, Mary Kate didn't necessarily have a good knife for batoning, and that's part of the reason that I would never suggest someone take a Mora out in a situation like this. Not that it's a bad choice, but if you need to do something that's maybe out of the knife's specific purpose because you're in a survival situation, you need to know that it has that little bit of extra beef. But it really sucks what happened to Mary Kate. Good on her for getting her fire going, though. Now, the rest of this episode seems to be at about day 5, and I don't feel that she's at day 5. I feel like the timeline was a little bit different there, but I didn't see them signify that. But, she got her little fire. That was great. I'm kind of hoping that she can get some medical attention, get patched up, and stay out there. I don't know if that's against the rules. I don't know what all is possible there, but if she's got the drive to stay, I hope that she can. I don't know if that's possible. She said she can't move her thumb. I don't know if that was from shock already, which is not likely. Normally when you cut yourself within that amount of time, you really, if there's no tendon damage or anything, there's no swelling, and you should still have full movement, which makes me think that maybe she did some serious damage there. It's really a bummer. But the big thing I think to get from that is we all have something to learn. We all have more to learn. And learning how to do things safely is very important. And you can split that wood like she did your whole life and never have a problem. But all of a sudden, when you haven't eaten or drank for about 3 days, your body's breaking down, things aren't working right, you're more prone to make mistakes. So it's really a bummer to see. I noticed that she had pictures of her children out there, I was under the impression that that wasn't allowed. But if that was the case, they wouldn't have showed it, obviously. So
Right.
hopefully everybody has pictures out there. That was something that kind of jumped out to me, though, is that she had an additional item outside of her 10 items to help her stay comfortable. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. But all in all, my biggest concern, obviously that axe she had was very sharp. It looked sweet, by the way. I'd like to know what it was because it looked like a cool axe. But man, I saw that happen, and that was brutal. And you know what else is interesting? Is the whole time that they've been showing that moment of her showing the injury on the previews, I kept thinking that that was Tracy. I don't know why. There's no good reason, but every time I thought that was Tracy, I kept thinking, oh man, I hope Tracy's all right. That looked brutal. I didn't guess it was Mary Kate.
Yeah.
But that's probably one of the most realistic emergencies that has been on Alone so far, because of infection and everything else.
Right.
And so that's going to be a very serious situation.
Yeah, and we'll find out more about her injury next week.
Hopefully. They might drag it out for a while and just show Jose and Nicole or something.
Oh,
but
that's true. That's true. Shows like to do that. They really do.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll find out a little bit more about that. And hopefully she can recover from it and stay out there longer. I know that I would really, really be bummed out to have to go home, to get this far, to be on the show, once in a lifetime opportunity, and to, cut your hand and have to leave. So that would really bum me out.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this episode seems to be all about food and the contestants trying to fill their tummies. And it got me thinking, I wonder what food they have been craving. Like, what are they missing the most? Or what food would they want to have as soon as they got back home? So for me, I know that anytime I'm around a fire, whether it's making a fire out here, having a bonfire, having friends over, I want s'mores. So that would be hard for me to, be making this fire and not having any s'mores to go with it. But some food that I know that I would be craving or that I would want to have as soon as I got back would be a beef stew or like a roast, slow cooked. Oh man. I would really want that because that is a hearty meal. That tastes amazing. So that's what I would want when I came back home. And then I would also want ice cream. Because you can't have ice cream while you're out there. And if anybody knows me, they know that I'm all about ice cream.
She's all about ice cream.
So that would be something that I would be really excited to have when I got back home. So, what about you?
My question for our viewers is tool related.
Okay.
What knife, if you could only have one, would you bring with you on Alone? So, I know that you can own other tools. This doesn't mean that you wouldn't have an axe, that you wouldn't have a saw, but if you could only bring one knife, which one knife would it be? Please talk to us about that in the comments. Also, if you have any specific questions for the contestants, go ahead and ask them in the comments. I'll try and get a hold of them and get answers for you guys. What they can and can't answer is not up to them, but they'll probably answer what they can. Let us know what you think. Answer our questions. Let us know what questions you have for us, and also let us know what question you would like us to ask next week. And if we get a lot of requests for one question, that's what we'll ask.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for watching, guys.
Please like, comment, please share the crap out of this video, and subscribe. We'll hope to talk to you soon.
Jimbo.